I met her in a bar. You know the type, the dark, smoky kind where the lights are low and the whiskey's cheap. I was just looking for a drink, something to take the edge off the mess my life had become. But when she walked in, every thought I had melted away. She was magnetic. Long black hair, tight leather pants, and eyes that practically glowed in the dim light. She sat down next to me, didn't even bother with introductions. Just stared at me, a sly smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Her voice was low, husky, and it curled around me like smoke. "You look like a man who needs to forget." I couldn't help but laugh, though it sounded hollow. "You don't know the half of it." She leaned in, close enough that I could smell the sweet scent of her perfume, her breath hot against my ear. "I can help with that." There was something about her, something dangerous. But maybe that's what pulled me in. I wanted danger. I wanted to forget. We left the bar together, no words, just an unspoken agreement. Back at her place, she wasted no time. Her apartment was small, almost too small for someone who looked like her. Red candles burned on every surface, casting shadows that danced along the walls. But it wasn't the room I cared about. It was her. The way she moved, like a predator, knowing exactly what she wanted. She pushed me against the door, her lips brushing mine, her hands roaming my body with a hunger that felt unnatural. The night blurred into a frenzy of skin and heat. She was insatiable. No, more than that, inhuman. I should have noticed then. The way her eyes glinted in the darkness, the way her nails dug into my skin just a little too deep, her teeth scraping my neck. It was rough. Animalistic. But I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't care about the little flashes of pain that felt a little too real. I was caught in the moment in her. Hours passed, but the intensity never stopped. Her body, her movements, it didn't tire. There was something primal about her. And as much as I tried to convince myself it was just the thrill of the night, part of me knew something was wrong. But I was too far gone. At some point, in the haze of lust and exhaustion, I started to hear it. A low, growling noise, deep and guttural, coming from her throat. At first, I thought it was just a trick of my tired mind, the heat of the moment. But the sound grew louder, more pronounced. It wasn't human. I tried to pull back, to slow things down, but she wouldn't let me. Her grip on my wrists tightened, nails digging into my skin, drawing blood. Her eyes, they weren't glowing anymore. They were black, bottomless pits staring right into me. And that's when I felt it, something inside her, something not right. I pushed her off me, stumbling back, my heart racing. "What the hell is going on?" She just smiled, that same twisted smile, but this time there was something darker behind it. She stood up, naked, her body still perfect, still impossibly beautiful, but the air around her, it felt wrong. Thick. Like it was vibrating with something evil. "You wanted this," she purred, stepping toward me. Her voice sounded distorted, almost like it was layered with something else, something ancient and hungry. "You came here." I backed away, my head spinning. "What are you?" Her smile widened, revealing sharp, pointed teeth, fangs, almost, but worse. They were too long, too jagged. My breath caught in my throat. I had to get out, had to leave before. The walls seemed to shift, twisting as if the entire room was alive. The candles flickered violently, casting shadows that no longer looked human. Her body, once so perfect, began to change. Her skin rippled, bones cracking, limbs stretching unnaturally. Her eyes sank deeper into her skull, black and empty, while her smile grew grotesque, splitting her face as her mouth opened wider than it should have. I tried to run, but the door wouldn't budge. It was like I was trapped in a nightmare. The walls were breathing now, pulsing with something dark and alive. Her laughter echoed around me, filling the room, bouncing off the walls. The growling noise returned, louder, surrounding me from all sides. "What are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. She tilted her head mockingly. "I'm what you wanted. What you asked for." Her body continued to twist, limbs elongating until they were grotesque and wrong, fingers like claws reaching for me. I slammed my hands against the door, desperate to escape, but it was useless. The room was shrinking around me, closing in as her laughter grew louder, more deafening. I turned to face her, my back against the door. Her face was barely recognizable now, a monstrous blend of woman and something else. Something ancient, primal, and horrifying. Her body moved unnaturally, her bones cracking with every step, her fingers twitching as she reached out for me. "This is what happens when you follow lust blindly," she whispered, her voice now a deep, demonic growl. "You get devoured." She lunged at me, her claws tearing through my skin, ripping flesh from bone as I screamed. The pain was unbearable, white-hot and blinding, but she didn't stop. She tore into me, her sharp teeth sinking into my neck, blood pouring from the wound as my vision blurred. And then, just as suddenly as it started, everything went black. I woke up, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. My heart was pounding in my chest, the taste of blood still fresh on my tongue. But I wasn't in her apartment. I was back in my bed, alone, my sheets soaked through. I scrambled to the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. There were no cuts, no blood, no signs of what had happened. But I could still feel her. Her presence lingered, like a shadow lurking in the corners of my vision. I checked my neck. No bite marks. Nothing. But as I stood there, staring at myself, I noticed something else. A faint whisper. At first, I thought it was in my head, but it grew louder, more persistent. The mirror began to fog over, and there, written in the condensation, were 2 words. "See you." I staggered back, the whispering growing louder, filling the room, the same growl from last night echoing in my ears. She wasn't gone. She was still here. And she wasn't done with me.